Today we are taking a look at the FoxAlien Ultra series. This is the Ultra 8080, and there is also the brand new Ultra Core which has just been released that is basically a baby brother to this, but still packing the same type of spec. Now I'm going to be doing my usual style review. I'm going to tell you about all the specifications of the machine, add-on and accessories, my experience with it, as well as anything that I've come across during my review that I think could be changed or improved. So let's get stuck in and get started. So the FoxAlien Ultra series, what is it all about? Well, the easiest way to explain this is it's their first venture into a frameless or baseless CNC machine. As you can see here, there is no frame pieces joining all this together at the front, the middle or the back. You just have the y-axis and the x-axis connecting everything together. Now, why have they done this? Well, there are a couple of reasons behind it. Obviously, all of those extra frame pieces that you're purchasing add to the cost of the machine. They also add to the weight of the packaging. These spoil boards or beds that they normally provide with these machines, again, add to the cost, also add to the weight of the shipping. Now, a lot of people end up normally doing their own spoil board on top or creating a new bed that is more ideal for their setup. So it's actually taken away some of the elements that people don't necessarily need. Overall, this reduces the cost of the machine for the consumer. It also reduces the typical packaging size and weight overall. And even though this is a big machine, it all arrives in one single box, making it much more convenient overall. Now, should you want to, you can still purchase an additional frame and bed for this machine as an add-on, and I'll talk about accessories and add-on a little bit later. But do not interpret the fact they've taken parts away from this machine to think that it is basically slimming the machine down or making it any less in terms of its performance. In fact, it's the opposite way. They really reinforced and strengthened the core components of this machine, giving you a very durable, rigid machine to get some great machining done. So let's actually talk about the specifications of the machines themselves. Well, this is the 8080, and I'll talk about this first. The work area for this is 840 wide by 840 deep with a 120mm travel on the Z-axis, so you can do some pretty deep machining on this machine. Now, in terms of the overall footprint for this machine, it is 1415 on the width, 1244 on the depth, with a height of around 505mm. So in terms of the dimensions for the Ultra Core, the smaller version of this, the work area is roughly about half the size, just a little bit more. So we're talking 440 on the width, 440 on the depth, and the same 120mm travel on the Z-axis. Now, the overall dimensions or the footprint for that machine is 1015 on the depth, and the same 505 on the overall height. So that gives you an indication of the type of space that they will take up and the overall work area that you can get from these machines. Now, all the specifications that I'm about to talk about for the rest of the setup of these, it is the same between the Ultra Core and the Ultra 80 that I have in front of me. So let's talk about the frame setup for this. Now, all three axes are running on linear rails. I think they're HG15 linear rails, so pretty thick and very sturdy. Now, there are single linear rails on each of the y-axis, twin linear rails on the x-axis, and also twin linear rails on the z-axis as well. Now, what this means is you're going to get a very stable machine that runs extremely smoothly. Linear rails are basically one of the best setups that you can get, especially in this price range. So it ultimately means that you're going to get better results of the smoothness of these rails as they run. All three axes are also ball screw driven. And again, when you pair this with the linear rails, it is a very smooth, consistent drive system that basically minimizes anything like backlash and slop. So again, just adding to the quality of the results that you can expect from these machines. And all three axes are also driven by closed loop NEMA 23 stepper motors. Now, if you're not familiar with the difference between open and closed loop motors, basically with an open loop motor, it receives a command. It doesn't necessarily know if it's completed it or carried it out correctly. With a closed loop system, it is tracking and giving feedback. And what this basically means is that it will minimize any type of mistakes or steps being missed as a result. Now, those few specifications that I just ran through, we've kind of seen before on other FoxAlien machines, such as the Vasto V2 range and also the XE Pro, especially if you add the linear rail upgrade onto that. But what we have not seen before from FoxAlien is these little things right here. These are induction limit switches. Now, traditional limit switches are literally a switch that touches a plate on the machine and it presses it down to trigger the limit switch and basically causes an alarm or stops it from traveling any further. Now, one of the problems with these types of limit switches is that if you hit them too hard or the machine is traveling too fast, you can actually damage them. They're also more prone to being set off from things like chips or little pieces of metal getting into them. Now, with induction limit switches, there is actually no contact. There is basically a sensor probe, and as it goes past the pin, it triggers it. So therefore, it runs less risk of damaging the limit switches, probably more accurate overall, and basically just a nice addition to this machine, as I say, that we have not seen in other FoxAlien machines before. On top of that as well, should you trigger one of the limit switches, a nice little addition is there are now warning lights on the front of the control box telling you which axis has been triggered, just making it much easier to understand where the issue has occurred so you can resolve it nice and quickly. Now, at the start of the video, I was talking about them taking things away such as the base frame and the original bed to minimize the overall weight and bring the cost of the machine down. Now, another thing they have also taken away is they are no longer including a stock spindle in the setup of the machine. There are a couple of reasons for this. The first one is most people end up changing it out for something like a trim router or a spindle VFD setup like you can see here. So essentially the stock big spindle just ends up being wasted and put to one side. The other thing as well is that actually this machine is very powerful and very rigid, and those small 400 watt spindles probably couldn't keep up with what this is able to handle. So by taking that away, again, it brings the cost down a little bit for you, but it also means that you can put in something that you want to have on this machine that is going to be able to handle the performance of it. Now, in my scenario, I've gone with installing the FoxAlien 1.5 kilowatt VFD spindle, and this is a perfect pairing for this machine. It's very powerful. It's ultimately going to be able to machine pretty much whatever you want, and it is also quieter than things like the trim routers. Yes, they do cost a little bit more, but the endurance of these over longer periods of time is much better. These are not going to burn out in the same way the trim routers do. Now, there are, of course, other VFD spindle setups out there that will work with this machine. If you already have one, brilliant. But the reason I recommend the FoxAlien one is the seamlessness of the connectivity. I did a review on it recently. The link will be up in the corner somewhere. And basically, it just shows you how quick it is to get set up. Now, previously, when I brought an unbranded spindle and VFD, it took me ages to get everything right. You are literally talking a couple of minutes to get this installed, set up and running. And as I say, paired with this machine, brilliant combination. Now, as I just mentioned, setup of the spindle, I'll talk about the setup of the machine. Now, I did put a video out on this, how to set it all up and get it all done correctly. But because it is a simpler machine, it's actually quite easy. You have your two Y-axis, your X-axis, and the Z assembly that you just connect together with a few bolts. Now, there are a couple of extra steps, obviously, because we have no subframe on this, basically to get everything squared and aligned. But that is a very easy process to go through. And as I say, it was all in the original assembly video. So it is quite easy to set up, quite quick to set up, but do not overlook the fact of adding some sort of base or bed or spoil board, I should say, to the machine. So yes, the build is very easy, but at bare minimum, at least chuck a sheet of MDF down to get yourself started for some sort of spoil board. Now, in terms of the price for these machines, at the time of recording, the 8080 is $1,799 and the Ultra Core, the smaller version, is $1,399. So that's a $400 difference between the two different sizes. I nearly forgot to mention, FoxAlien have actually given me an exclusive discount code for this machine. I'll put it on the bottom of the screen. Check out the links in the description area should you want to save a little bit of money on this machine. Now, if you have the space to take it, I would strongly recommend going for the bigger version. People rarely regret getting bigger machines. They do often regret getting the smaller machine. So if you have the space and the extra money, definitely look at the 8080. But as I say, the core version is still a brilliant option anyway, because it packs the same hardware just in a smaller package. Now, in terms of accessories and add-ons, obviously I've already mentioned that you can buy a base frame for this, and also the hybrid bed, which is basically a T-track system allowing you to clamp in lots of different places. So you can purchase that to go along with the 8080 or the core. As well, you can also purchase, obviously, spindles and trim rotors, which I've already touched on, and this will take a laser as well that you can be fitted to it. Now, fourth axis. FoxAlien are actually working on a fourth axis that will run on this machine. It's not out yet, but I suspect it will be coming extremely soon. And again, this is all set up and compatible, ready to run with it for when it is actually released. And of course, you can also purchase dust shoes for those trim rotors and spindles. Now, you will see behind me, I've got a custom dust shoe for this. I actually broke the original FoxAlien dust shoe because basically the gripping point on this spindle is quite high, and therefore it's not really suitable for the FoxAlien dust shoe. So I actually ended up developing my own specifically for this setup, but it will work on other machines too. And I had quite a few requests for the files, so I'm going to put them all for sale on my website. Now, you can see it's all magnetic, just clicks together nice and easy. Even the hose as well is magnetic, so very easy to print, very easy to set up, very versatile as well. I've even done different depths on the skirts of this, so if you're using longer bits, use the deeper skirt. Using shorter bits, use the shorter skirt. But as I say, all the files for it will be on the shop on my website, and the link will be down below. Now, in terms of my own experience with this machine, well, you can probably tell from some of the projects that I've been putting on screen that I have had brilliant results. Straight through from setting everything up to actually running and operating this machine has been a joy to do. So I've had some really nice results from it because it is a very solid, sturdy machine. Now, when it comes to looking for machines in general, one of the first base points that you need is a solid, rigid machine, because without that, nothing else really works very well. You can have the strongest motors possible in the world, but if the machine wobbles or is a bit flexible, well, you're still not going to get good results. That is why this is working so well, because not only are they giving the strength within the stepper motors, the smoothness of the linear rails and the ball drive system, but actually overall it is a very solid frame. Obviously, as long as it is fixed down to something that is solid. So for me, it's been a very positive experience from start to finish, and I've done some nice projects along the way. Now, what can this actually machine? Well, obviously that will depend on whatever you install in the holder, whether it is a trim router or a VFD spindle setup. But what I can tell you is any type of wood, it is going to machine through fine. Plastics, acrylics, hard composite materials like those, it's also going to do. Can it machine metal? The big question. Yes, it will do. Even with the trim router, it will still machine soft metals like aluminium and brass. Obviously, just depends the speeds and feeds that you want to run them at versus the spindle or trim router that you have installed. And I should also point out, this machine, the Ultra and the Core, are both on only CNC, so you can get some base rates from there in terms of speeds and feeds for different types of material. Now, it wouldn't be one of my reviews if I didn't deliberately go looking for faults or things that could be improved. And I have found one issue with this machine. I'm not yet sure whether it's localized to my machine or whether it is a manufacturing issue. FoxAlien haven't answered that yet. But the problem is these machines, when using a VFD spindle like this, should be able to do what is known as a dwell. This is basically when you start the job, the machine will pause for a few seconds to allow the spindle to get up to speed. However, for some reason, my machine keeps skipping over that line of command in the code. So instead of pausing, it just basically starts and goes to machine straight away. What I have to do is manually click pause and then start again to let it carry on cutting. Now, as I say, I don't know if this is just a local issue with my machine or whether it is a bigger issue, but hopefully FoxAlien can find a way to fix it regardless, even if it is just on my machine, because I need to get that working. And the only other thing really that I could think of is that I do feel there is a little bit of wasted space on this machine versus the frame size to the cutting area. Now, on each axis, as you can see, they've got these really big hard limit stop blocks on the end. So if it runs too far, obviously it hits those before it causes any damage. Now, I do feel that you've got like 2 inches on that side, 2 inches on that side. That's an extra potential 4 inches worth of travel that could be utilized. Even if you want to halve those blocks down, that's an extra inch of travel on either side. So they could, if they wanted to, get a little bit more travel and work area out of these machines if they wanted to tweak it. So the big question, who is this suitable for? Well, I normally try and find specific target audiences this will work for, but actually in this scenario, it's pretty broad. You have the rigidity in the frame, the power of the machine. You also have the precision of things like the ball screws. So it's going to be suitable for those wanting to do smaller, finer detail work on things such as maybe brass or aluminium with detail carvings. But you still have the larger work area, especially on the 8080 version, to do things like large pieces of plywood or MDF for cutting out parts. So actually, it is a very broad audience that this is going to be suitable for. It is very simple to set up. Obviously, FoxAlien provide very clear guides for that. So if you're new getting into CNC, it's largely partly built other than putting 3 main parts together, again, making it a smoother process. So yeah, no real niche here, just a very broad machine that will be suitable to a lot of people. Now, in terms of software, if you've watched any of my other FoxAlien machine reviews in the past, it's a similar story to those. In terms of the CAD CAM software, the design software, this is going to run with all of your most popular pieces of software out there, such as Carveco, such as Vectric, Fusion, Easel. So it is quite universal in terms of what software will output files that can work with this machine. Look, my personal choice is Carveco Maker, and if you want a 90-day free trial of that, there will be a link in the description area down below. And also, if you love the software and want to learn more about it, also check out Carveco Academy, where we do a full beginner's course, a jump starter course to get you up and running in super quick time. So that's the design software element. Moving over to the control software, which is basically where your PC or your laptop is talking to the machine. It's going to work with all the most common ones out there. Your G-Sender, your Open Build Controller, UGS, Candle. And the joys of those that I've just mentioned is they're all free. They do not cost a penny in order to actually run this machine. So that is one of the advantages of it being Gerbil based. Now, when I am doing my reviews, I try not to cross-reference competitors' machines, because at the end of the day, it's about my experience with this machine as I am doing it. But I know the question is going to come up about this versus the Longmill, because conveniently, they are about the same price, and naturally that was done for a reason, to generate competition. So these are my thoughts and opinions as it stands at the moment. Now, if you are looking for a machine that can have the largest possible work area, then that's going to be the Longmill. It can obviously do a bigger work area than this, especially if you're looking at the largest version of the Longmill, which, as I say, is a similar price to this machine. But its downfall in comparison to this machine is this does have linear rails, ball screws, and stronger stepper motors. So if you are after overall performance and quality, then the Ultra is going to be the best choice for you. It is a smaller work area, but a stronger machine overall. The other advantage I would say, though, that the Longmill has over this, it does have a better control system with its super longboard. That runs a more advanced version of the Gerbil firmware called Gerbil HAL. This allows you to have lots of different options and things that you can control and change, as well as different connection options and different ways to run things such as a 4th axis. So there are a few things to consider there, but the short version is basically what I said at the start. Biggest work area that you're after, go for the Longmill. Overall strength and precision, the Ultra right here. Now, with all that said, there is obviously a new version of the Longmill coming out, so we'll see what that brings in the future. So there's my review and overview of the FoxAlien Ultra 8080 with some extra information thrown in, trying to cover off the core model as well. Now, obviously, if you are interested in either this or the core version, there will be some links down in the description area for you to go and check out. And if you have any questions, let me know in the comments area and I'll do my best to answer them. Thank you all for watching. I do hope you have found this very useful. And final thanks, as always, goes to my patrons. I will see you all on the next episode.